welcome to my reactions to the first ever episode of AEW Dynamite on TNT. The first wrestling on TNT in 18-ish years. They made sure to drive that home brilliantly throughout the night. My name is Ryan the Indie Nerd, and I'm going to go over some of my reactions to all the different matches, all the different segments of AEW Dynamite. Make sure that after you watch or during the watch to comment your reactions. Also follow us on Twitter at Deep6 Wrestling if you haven't already, to see our thoughts on this debut episode of Dynamite. And first off, the beginning of the night I thought was a really good way to set it off. Definitely a good thought to put on a hot match like Sammy Guevara versus Cody. The hype package for this match made it seem like it should be on a pay-per-view. It made Sammy look like a real threat to Cody, and it definitely reminded everybody that Full Gear is a month away and there is a title match coming up. I think everybody kind of knew the outcome of this match, just because you're not going to say, well, Cody versus Jericho is the next match, and then throw on this random match and say, oh yeah, Sammy could be the next one to challenge Jericho if Cody loses. It definitely was a weird angle to throw in, to just say Cody's the next in line, but if he loses this match, then maybe he'll give up the match. If anything, they should have just done like a number one contendership here. Otherwise, though, this match was a great way to kick off the show. The one complaint I had was that they kept on mentioning the first ever episode of Nitro and how that match was Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger, and that this match reminded them a lot of those two men. I think that if you really wanted to drive home that point, Brian Pillman Jr. is around. You easily could have gotten him for this match, I think. Just throw in him versus Kip Sabian or something to throw off the first one. Have two really good talents for it, but otherwise there's no real complaints here from me. It was weird to see Cody and Brandy being faces, as through much of the promotion, through the previous shows, Cody's been like this heel. He was heel against Darby Allin. He was heel against Dustin. The only real match he wasn't heel for was him and Dustin versus the Young Bucks, where the Young Bucks played up as heels. And Brandy is a heel. She's just a really good heel manager and heel woman, heel authority figure. But to see her being like a sympathetic babyface, where Sammy put her in harm's way and made Cody do a suicide dive right into her, I thought was an interesting choice. I also thought it was interesting that you'd have Cody doing his signature taunts and Sammy kind of throwing it right back at him, which was a good little segue throughout the match. Sammy really impressed here. I think a lot of people kind of forgot of his match between him and Kip Sabian at, I think, what was it, Double or Nothing? That he can really perform, and he really had a coming out party as to just how good he is. I thought this match overall was really, really good. Guevara's selling was really on top of things in this one, as well as his little jump up to the top rope for his standing or top rope Spanish fly on Cody was great. Some of his just high flying moves were really good, and his quickness, his selling, his just overall presence in the ring was just really good. And I think that this performance shows that he is definitely going to be a mid-card threat. I don't think he's going to be a top heel anytime soon. But the end of this show definitely made it seem like he could be a consistent threat to the Elite, which is an interesting choice. We also got to see a definitely out of nowhere ending in this, where Sammy went for a shooting star press, but Cody got the knees up and then rolled him up with an inside cradle for the 1, 2, 3. I was surprised at this ending, but I thought it was really good. I would give it 4 stars. I thought this was probably the match of the night. I know that some people would probably say Hangman versus Pac would probably be match of the night, but we'll get to that in a little bit. After this, we had our match with MJF and Brandon Cutler, which easily was the most disappointing match, but we'll get to why in a second. I think the commentators did a really good job of trying to hype up Brandon Cutler as this guy who came up with the Bucks. He's been the Bucks' friend for almost ever. He stepped away from wrestling for a few years so that he could try to have a family, but the wrestling bug came back, and with AEW they gave him a shot. MJF comes out and cuts a very good heel promo after getting a really big pop. I mean, you love to hate this guy, and he made sure to get the crowd to turn on him real quick once he heard that pop. He comes out with the mic, calling everybody poor, they're losers, goes back to the D&D comments I made earlier on Twitter that got some people who aren't even into wrestling to go and highlight this guy, talking about how Brandon Cutler probably should be on or in the fans because he's a loser who looks like he wants to play Dungeons and Dragons all the time, and he's probably poor. It was a good promo. I'm not doing it justice. Afterwards, the match starts, and it didn't really get started very quickly. They go at it for a bit, and just as the match is really looking like it's going to get underway, Brandon Cutler goes on the outside, and him and MJF exchange some blows, and then he throws MJF back into the ring, gets onto the top turnbuckle, and immediately falls down, and it looks like he tweaked something in his leg. He tries to fix it and immediately kind of limps over to the corner. MJF gets into the corner, gets the ref in the way, punches Cutler, and then puts him in the Salt of the Earth, which is a great name for a finisher, and Cutler taps out. And this was obviously the weakest match on the card, but hopefully Cutler is okay and he gets another chance, because we didn't really get to see what he could bring in this match. MJF is still the most detestable heel in the business. He is just outstanding on the mic. He is great in the ring. However, he didn't really get to show that tonight, but hopefully he definitely will get more chances to shine. Next up, we got a good segment with the SCU, SoCal Uncensored. First off, they throw it to a pre-recorded segment of their whole "this is the worst town I've ever been in" shtick. Scorpio Sky has a fantastic impression of President Obama, as Frankie and Christopher Daniels try to play Secret Service agents. It was a good, quick SCU segment. They throw it over to the stage, and SCU is out there with Tony Schiavone, and they're talking about the tag team tournament that will be coming up. Scorpio says that he is going to give up his spot in SCU for the tournament so that Frankie and Chris can go at it. They have the most experience, and experience should lead them to greatness. All of a sudden, they are interrupted by Pentagon and Phoenix, who come out to remind them that they are the best tag team on the planet. They both say their catchphrase of Cero Miedo. SCU does the SCU chant, and then a brawl breaks out. This was a good way to set up their match in the tag tournament and keep people reminded that both these teams are here and they shouldn't be forgotten behind the tag teams that would take stage later in the night. After that, it comes the match that most people were excited for the most. It was Hangman Page versus the Bastard Pac. Now, interesting things to start off with is obviously Pac got a huge reaction. JR calls him the man that gravity forgot. I thought that was an interesting remark, since that was his catchphrase in WWE. Hadn't heard that in a while, so definitely a nice throwback. Hangman Page, obviously, as well, got a big response. This was a match that was very intense. You could feel that there's this tension between these two. I don't know if it's real heat or just they are that good of performers that they can make it seem like they absolutely hate each other. There was some no selling at the beginning. It was very slow to start, and then all of a sudden it just started going off, hitting move after move, punch after punch. There's some really good points in this match, some really stiff hits as well. One of the more rough spots it looked like was Pac's missile drop kick down to the kind of laying down Hangman. Hangman would later, in the opposite corner, hit his own drop kick right to the face of Pac. Again, some really stiff shots by everyone. Pac at some point ends up getting busted open right around his eye, but you really can't see it due to his hair, so you don't see the ref trying to get involved or try to clean it up or anything like that. The match ends up ending, I thought, pretty late in the game. I thought this match had hit pretty much everything. We were just waiting for that finish. I think a lot of people, this match could have gone either way, but you've got to build up Pac as this monster heel that he truly is. He is truly despicable. Hangman is on his back, or on his front, I should say, back towards the turnbuckle. Pac hits the Black Arrow right on his back and puts him right into the brutalizer on the ground instead of a standing version that he hit on Kenny at All Out. And the ref calls it right after Page passes out, and that is that. Pac is 2-0, and the sky's the limit for him. I thought this was a really good match as well. I wouldn't put it as high up as Sammy versus Cody, but I'd give it a good 3.5, 3 3/4 stars if I had to say. I thought it was a really strong performance by these guys, and maybe went a little too long. There, like I said, near the end, it kind of was like, okay, when's the finish gonna happen? But overall, it was a good performance for both these guys. Now on to the title match of the night. It is Nyla Rose, the Native Beast, versus Riho. Considering Nyla Rose hasn't had that many good performances in All Elite, she was very hyped when she came in, but definitely took a backseat to Dr. Britt Baker, who was on commentary for this match, who I thought was probably the best part of commentary for the night. And we'll get to commentary near the end. But she brought a lot of good points, since she is who many think is the face of the women's division currently. I think a lot of people were kind of surprised that she wasn't in this the first ever title match, but I think it's leading to something bigger, and I'm very excited for it. I think Dr. Britt Baker versus Bea Priestley is a money feud that's based somewhat in reality, with Bea obviously non-intentionally injuring Britt in their match at Fight for the Fallen. Now I think you have them trying to beat each other up at All Out, and now it is Dynamite time, and I think eventually you will have those two try to settle the score, probably to lead to a title match in some way. But back to the match at hand, I thought Nyla Rose was really impressive in this. I thought she had a lot of big moves. There was a move at one point that you didn't really get a great view of on TV, just because it was in that picture-to-picture small frame while commercials were going. But she had Riho draped over the ropes. She got on the top turnbuckle and jumped off and kind of just slammed into her. It looked like looked really devastating. The Death Valley driver that she hit was really good, and just the selling I thought was very, very strong on both their ends. My one complaint that I would have are the holds. When Nyla tried to lock in a hold on Riho's a very thin individual, very small individual, but there's got to be a way that you can make those holds look like they are actually locked in. At some points in them, depending on the camera angle, it looked like Nyla Rose was just holding air. That would be the only takeaway I'd have, or negative takeaway I have of this match. I thought this was easily both of their strongest performances so far. The match, again, kind of came out of nowhere with a finish. Riho made her big babyface comeback. It was hitting all sorts of strong moves, and we also got to see kind of her more aggressive side with the double stomp, or double knees right to the back of Nyla Rose's head to kind of dizzy her, and then finally put her away with the double knees right to the face for the 1, 2, 3. There are also some really good near falls in this match. Riho had a few where she kicked out right at 2.5. The best one, I think, was probably the best near fall that I've seen in a match in a while. Whether it was supposed to be or not, who knows. But Riho had hit a move, and Nyla Rose, she had pinned Nyla Rose, and it looked like it was at 2.99 seconds. It looked like the count was going to be 3 in any millisecond. I thought it was a really good sell, a really good kick out. And you also saw the crowd kind of react. They were really shocked that it happened. Some of them thought it was at 3, but you could definitely tell that was not going to be the end of the match. And I thought that was really good. After the match, Michael Nakazawa comes out to interview Riho for the Japanese fans and the Japanese audience in their native language, but Nyla Rose comes out and brutally attacks Michael Nakazawa and then attacks Riho and looks like she's going to hit the Death Valley driver on Riho on the apron, but Kenny Omega comes out, makes the save, pulls Riho off of Nyla Rose, and then gets in between them, telling her to knock it off and stop this. It's not necessary. And I'm interested on where this angle goes. I know that they've been talking up Kenny Omega and Riho as that intergender team since the first time Riho ever came out. They said that she was part of this because she is Kenny Omega's favorite woman wrestler, and she is his favorite partner that he's ever worked with. And if he ever does intergender matches, he likes to be teamed up with her because they complement each other very well. So I'm interested to see if this is going to lead to some sort of intergender tag match or a mixed match or what. But Nyla Rose looked really strong. She also hit a really good double clutch Liger bomb on Michael Nakazawa, which he sold like he had just destroyed his back, which was great. And now it is main event time. It is the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Santana, Ortiz, and Chris Jericho. The Young Bucks and Kenny come out to being the Elite theme. They have the matching gear. They are totally the biggest guys on the roster, and the crowd is going wild for them. And then Santana and Ortiz come out after the commercial break, and they get a really big pop because this is the first time we're going to get to see them wrestle under the All Elite banner. They impressed a lot of people in Impact. They've impressed people in Progress. I know that during Progress's American tour, I think last year, they had some, what some people called some of the best tag matches that people had seen in a while. So I know that there are people that have said that these guys are the real deal, one of the top 5 tag teams in the world right now. And since they've left Impact, a lot of people assumed this was going to happen. They were going to come to All Elite. Now they absolutely are. Still don't have a proper name for them. We know that they can't use LAX as owned by Impact. Some people thought that it was going to be called Proud and Powerful, but they didn't call them that in this. They just called them Santana and Ortiz. Like I said, got a big pop. And then Jericho comes out. He might be the biggest dick in wrestling, at least in All Elite wrestling. But the crowd still loves him. He comes down flipping off the audience at points. And they're definitely using that TV-14 as much as they can. The match starts off with Kenny versus Santana. Santana immediately tags out once the bell rings so that Jericho could get in, and the crowd's going wild with these two guys in there. Omega's telling Chris to bring it. Chris is trying to work the crowd and then immediately tags Santana back in. Omega starts hitting moves after move, and quickly the Elite have the upper hand. Omega tags out, and the Young Bucks hit their dives, and Omega gets in. He's doing the Terminator power up. He stands up, the crowd gets hot, and all of a sudden the camera just tilts a little bit, and you see there he is. Jon Moxley is in the ring. Moxley attacks Omega. Once Omega turns around and realizes what's going on, they start brawling. The ref does not call for a DQ, although I think there was a bell ring right as they throw each other over the barricade. It sounds like there was a hint of a bell ring, but they didn't bring it up. Nobody talked about it. And for the next 2 to 3 minutes, they are just focusing on these two guys brawling. There is action happening in the ring as they cut over, and the Bucks are facing off against Santana and Ortiz, but they're focusing on Jericho and Moxley. This is the match that people want to see. They are brawling all through the crowd. They get to a VIP area. Moxley just starts slamming Omega's body in and head into a door, and then lines them up. There's this glass table. You know what's going to happen. And Moxley suplexes him, does a vertical suplex right into the glass table, and it looks like he overshoots Omega through it, where Omega doesn't really get hit by it, and Moxley's whole back just goes right through the glass, and Moxley looks like he's having the most fun that he's ever had. He is loving the pain, and we cut to commercial again. We go back after the commercial break, and they have officially said that it is just going to be a 2-on-3 handicap match from now on. And the Bucks, while they perform really well, they show off why they are considered a top tier tag team, hitting really great moves. Matt hitting the locomotive Northern Lights suplex on Santana, and or it might have been Ortiz, one of the two, and then hitting a double Northern Lights suplex on him, and then following it up with a running bulldog and lariat combo to the two of them. He tags in Nick, and Nick starts going crazy, hitting move after move, just showing off that he and Matt are easily they're connected because of their brotherhood. They know how to feed off each other really well, and all of a sudden it looks like, wow, the numbers advantage isn't playing a factor, and they're lining up for the finish, and Nick goes up to hit their finisher, and out of nowhere Jericho slides in, hits him with the code breaker. Santana and Ortiz come in, hit him with a double team move. Jericho comes in, hits the Judas effect, and they pin them 1, 2, 3. Match over, heels win, but that wasn't enough. They start beating them up some more. All of a sudden, Cody runs down. He starts getting in there, throwing punches. Sammy Guevara comes in. He starts laying into Cody, so their feud looks like it might be continuing, at least for maybe another episode or two. Dustin comes out in makeup and everything, even though he wasn't on the show, and starts laying the smackdown on everybody. And then the big debut happens. Jake Hager, who they don't mention has been a wrestler before, even though he's worked in numerous companies. They say, oh my God, it's Jake Hager, the MMA fighter, the undefeated MMA fighter is here. I think he's had one match, it was like a 40-year-old person who hadn't done much in MMA. But anyway, he got a huge reaction when people realized who he was. It's 2019, and I wouldn't have guessed probably in the last 3 years that he would get this large a reaction. The crowd went nuts when they realized who it was, chanting "We the People," chanting "Holy shit," and it felt like a scene out of the old Raw and SmackDowns that you'll probably see on Facebook and Twitter every so often, saying, why can't wrestling go back to this, where it just ends in like everybody coming out from behind, from the back, hitting their signatures, hitting their finishers, laying everybody out, heels, faces going at it, and then it going off. In this, it was interesting. He hits all his moves, and eventually they bring in the ring bell stand which has already been destroyed once by Jericho earlier in the night when he laid out Cody after his match against Sammy Guevara. But in this moment, they get the rebuilt version, and it looks like they're going to try to throw Cody through it, but Cody gets up and immediately falls back down, so they grab Dustin, and then they lay Dustin out through it, mainly Jake Hager, but as he's doing it, Jericho tries to put arms on him, but then doesn't, and the heels stand tall. Very interesting end. And as JR is about to sign us off, it goes black and it ends. So yeah, definitely still trying to figure out the kinks of how to end a show. We know that through some of their other performances, some of their other pay-per-views, that they've run out of time, had things cut, had endings cut, and in this case, it sounded like JR was going to be saying something to set up the next show, and all he says is, "We'll be in Boston next week. It's a sold-out show." Cuts. Right to black. So don't know what else. Like, you could tell he was about to say something else. Probably just something quick, but who knows. Overall, I'd say this was a hell of a performance for their first thing, minus the match between Cutler and MJF. I think this was a great first show. I'd give it A minus if I had to go with anything. I haven't watched NXT yet for this week. I know Rob is going to be doing an episode of his reactions in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, overall, just some other things to point out. There are some really good moves throughout the night. I didn't mention Hangman Page's really good avalanche blockbuster on Pac. Like I said in the last segment, after the Cody-Sammy Guevara match, Cody, or first off, Tony Schiavone comes into the ring to try to interview Cody, and you can see there's tears coming. He's trying to hold back tears. He's so excited. He's so happy that this is getting the reaction that it should be. They hug, and then all of a sudden, Jericho comes in and just starts beating him up. I thought this was great. Commentators. I wanted to say something about commentators. JR and Schiavone have really good chemistry together, but not calling a match chemistry. It's more of, we are best friends, we know each other, let's have conversations. Excalibur feels like the forgotten man, but easily had the best lines of the night, was the best play-by-play person, was the best part of the commentary. I thought Tony Schiavone would be a close second, and JR, he's slacking. He definitely dated himself at points. They were talking about during the Sammy Guevara and Cody match that Sammy Guevara has a vlog, and JR says, "I don't think you can say that word. That's not a good word to use, but I forgot we're TV 14, so you can use that word." Schiavone says, "Do you know what a vlog is?" JR says, "I'd never heard of a vlog or a blog. That's not for me. That's not a good word. I'm surprised you can say that on this show." So that was weird. They talked about how they were trending on Twitter, and JR said, "The only thing I know about Twitter is my Twitter at JR's barbecue. That's all you need to know about Twitter, is that name." He's definitely showing more and more that he's losing his grasp on that great commentary. I think a lot of people just assume that it's good old JR, he's going to be the best, but he's shown time and time again more often than not that he is the weakest part of a broadcast. That was true when he came back in WWE the last few years, and through the last few shows with AEW, the pay-per-views, and tonight. I definitely think he was the weakest part of those broadcasts for the team that's staying together, at least. Not talking about Alex Marvez, as you would know on our Twitter. Not many of us like Alex Marvez. We also had a moment in during the show where Chris Van Vliet, I think his name was interviewing Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, aka Jay and Silent Bob, about their reboot movie that's coming out next month, or this month. I keep on forgetting it's October. And all of a sudden, Angelico and Jack Evans come out. They want to fight them. Jason Mewes gets on the mic and says, "You guys suck so bad, you can't even win a match." Jack Evans challenges them to a fight. All of a sudden, Private Party come out with drinks, hand them to Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, and then security comes and escorts them out of the building, and I'm very confused by that. I know it's setting up something between Angelico and Jack Evans and Private Party, but it was just confusing. Yeah, like I said, overall I'd give it an A-. And yeah, feel free to talk to us on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. Follow us there as well. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube, Deep Six Wrestling, and if you have Facebook, follow us on Facebook at Deep Six Wrestling as well. I've been Ryan the Indie Nerd, and I'll see you next time.